Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below this video once it has rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the panel, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as this increases the live audience, and that in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show, and one last time, if you are new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Sleeping Warrior. Very good to have you here.
Good morning, how are we?
Good afternoon.
Yeah,
Very
that's
well.
it.
Yeah,
Are
we
we
good
good?
Start. I'm good. Very well. No complaints.
I watched a movie last night from the 90s that I'm sure most English people will be familiar with,
ID.
but no doubt have forgotten all about, and I refound it because I saw an advert for the sequel. The film's called ID. It's got not Robert Carlyle. It's got the Joe McIntyre from Coronation Street in it, but it's filmed very much like a Robert Carlyle movie. It's absolutely brilliant. It's about cops that are undercover, trying to infiltrate a football hooligans group, and they have to get involved in all the shenanigans that football hooligans get in, like smashing bars up and all that kind of stuff.
Does he end up with a tattoo on his ass?
He does.
I do remember that movie. Garbage.
It's a brilliant movie. Wash your mouth out. They brought a new one out called ID2, and it's like the sequel from like 20 years on. It's a bit like when they brought out.
Hello.
Hey,
Good to have you.
pleasure to be here. How you been?
Very well.
I'll be honest, I was surprised to see it was the real you.
I was as well.
Yeah.
I thought you'd be a sniper straight away, but good that it's the real you.
Oh no, I'm the real Slim Shady. So yeah.
Good stuff.
Have you found any curvature at Rave?
I'm still looking. I still haven't found it.
No,
But
didn't we have an outstanding issue with you? I'm sure there was something that you were looking into, and I've forgotten what it was.
well, I mean, philosophically, I just can't reconcile how stuff disappears behind the curve. A couple miles out, and then left to right, we don't see any curvature. That's contradiction. It doesn't make any sense. Right there, boom. That's it. Flat.
Shout out to Patricia in chat.
Yeah, wishing my wife a happy 33rd birthday. Thank you, Patricia.
Happy birthday.
She's not here. She's gone out for a walk. So my daughter's not here either. But yes, I will pass on her your regards, Ira and Patricia.
I was going to shout happy birthday, Paula, but she's not in the room, is she not?
No, she's not here.
I'll not bother her.
Nah, don't bother.
Yeah, so ID2 is out. I can't wait to watch it. You can watch movies now through YouTube. So you pay like $4.99 or whatever.
Oh no, Jamie the sniper. Has he booted both the panel members? Of course he has. How long was that? That's got to be a record. 4 minutes. Unreal. Okay, there'll be a small interlude while I start a new hangout. Getting this down to a fine art form. done. I'll wait about 5 minutes before I stick the link out publicly, as that was a record-breaking snipe 4 minutes into the show. Alex Quant says, still not convinced it's flat. Scientists would agree. Not convinced. Not convinced it's flat. I'll come up with some scientific proof that it's a globe. That would convince me the other way. Hello again.
That was bloody quick.
That was fast. I had my mouse out, but normally I'm, at least 5 minutes into the show before I'm clutching for the mouse to beat the snipers. So that was my fault, just not on the ball enough. Hey ho. I'll get the link out now. You're here.
Hang on, give me a minute. Let me get the thing popped up. I had it popped up as well, and I saw him coming.
So did I. Just think, I'll leisurely get that. Oh, he's got my whole panel. Fun. So we'll try that again. The link is now public. Fast mouse. Nobody's getting past me this time. Famous last words. Chris says, I can break that record tomorrow if you like. Can you, Chris? Very entertaining. That's about all you're useful for.
I was just
Inverse looming non-standard refraction flamingo. Shout out to you, my friend.
Yeah, that's a good name, that.
You've missed a trick though. Super looming.
Yeah, that's a new phrase that's coming. Who brought that one in? Was it Ruhif?
Yeah, super refraction.
I've got to give a shout out to the Rumpus as well. I heard he was getting attacked by his own by the Earth discussions lot. They basically told him that he shouldn't come back in because he's not doing a good enough job of beating us because basically you're battering him. And I was like, no, we want Rumpus to come in. Don't do that. So if you're out there, Rumpus, do come in. We'd like to talk about horizons again.
Scientific proof of Earth curve.
Right, I've got the thing open now if you're ready.
Yeah, man, the link's out.
All right, okay. I'm just going to shut this door.
I've had a lovely relaxing morning. Went to Umberslade Farm, Tanworth and Arden. Petted donkeys, pigs, sheep, chickens, turkeys. You name it. All the favourites.
Did you know that you could buy movies on YouTube?
Yeah. About £3 or £4.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're just competing with Amazon and all of those guys, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's good though because when it stays logged into your account, so you can watch it anywhere. When you log into YouTube elsewhere.
Oh, I see. So you could just pick up the movie you've rented for a couple of days, and you can watch it on your iPad when you're out. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but like you can buy it or rent it.
Huh?
It's very good. I like it.
Cool.
Hooray, you're coming back in, dude.
Might not be able to. I think if somebody blocks them the same day, they can't come back in. Even if I start a new one. I could be wrong.
You started a new one though, didn't you?
I did. Hello, Arev. Is that really you?
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, I got sniped there, huh?
Yeah, glad you can rejoin though.
Yeah, these snipers are persistent. It's just crazy. Have you guys ever been on Discord?
We have been on
Yeah, of
Discord, but
course.
we had this conversation a couple of days ago. You can just, as a YouTuber, you've got a YouTube account, you've got your nice little icon with the Tweety birds with the lemons and stuff, and that means that you can just click that link and you join, and that's it. That's all you've got to do. Whereas if I move over to Discord, you've got to sign up to Discord, and suddenly you've got to be a Discord participant to be able to join the show. And to be honest, I think if you're watching YouTube, there's a good chance you've got a YouTube account. And if you're so inclined and you feel outraged by something that's been said on the panel, you'll just click the link. You won't click the link and then start a Discord account while the show's running live. I don't think. I wouldn't.
Hmm. Yeah, I got on there. It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. Very lively debate on there.
Yeah.
Does kind of seem like a round earth den of the lions, if as it were. A lot of what do you call it, round earth defenders on there. I'm like, where my flatties at? But I guess they're on there somewhere.
Yeah, the problem is their science is judged by consensus, and of course, consensus is not what is factual. So if you get 10 guys that all say red is the color blue, and they all agree that blue is blue, even though you can see it's red, then red becomes blue to them. Like the Emperor's New Clothes. Only the intelligent people can see that red is actually blue, and that's what it is in Discord.
Yeah, we're into the point now where they're talking about this super refraction, and basically it's no longer 7/6R, it's just R. It's just the radius. So in other words, they're saying it presents itself as a flat plane when you've got that circumstance. Just R, it just matches the radius. It's like,
And they obviously
right,
can't prove that the circumstances are perfect for that. And even if it was, then it would be very, very unlikely that somebody just happens to snap it.
hey Arwin, is that really you?
Hello.
Hello.
Ooh.
Good to have you.
Yeah.
So basically, how many times are they going to be able to realistically argue that everything appears to be flat because of super refraction, which is basically 6/6R, which is tighter than 7/6R? I mean, we're shouting at the 7/6R for being way more than negligible, but now they seem to have completely ignored 7/6R and made it even more tight. So it's gone to 6/6R.
Yeah, just R.
And if that really
just
is
the
their
radius.
position, that's nonsense.
What they're saying is light bends around the curve and identically matches the radius. In other words, it's indistinguishable from if it was flat, because it happens to bend perfectly and make it flat. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Alex Quant. Much obliged. But yeah, that's what they're saying. It presents itself as flat. What you see is flat. You can measure it as flat, but that's only because you've got light bending at coincidentally the exact radius of the Earth. So you couldn't tell it apart from if it was flat or not because of light bending in the exact way it needs to present itself as flat. It's just ludicrous.
And maybe we need to have a spirit where we invite the volitional will back into science. Like science's main thing is that there are avolitional or rather no design, no will, no brain behind some of these mechanics that's making the universe move. And maybe that's partially false because we're inviting a bunch of mindless mechanics to drive all this stuff. Maybe some of this stuff is alive, like God and stuff that put some of this stuff in motion, and maybe that can explain some of the things that mindless science that's totally materialistic cannot. And so maybe we're going down these weird theories because we have to explain how it happens without a design. And the thing is, even with the 6/6R, 6/6 reduces as a fraction down to 1. So like you say, it's just 1 times the radius. It's just the radius itself. 7/6 is a little bit bigger, but that multiplies out to astronomical calculations. If the radius of the Earth, like they say, is 20,000 miles, that's going to be a sixth of 20,000 miles added to your calculations, which is going to multiply out.
Hey, by the way, I've been thinking about the whole concept of everything looming around into an apparent flat plane. There's this thing about displacement, and that is if the Earth is actually a ball, then things in a very far distance in relation to everything else surrounding you into the very far distance should be relatively closer to each other than if objects in the very far distance would be on a flat plane. because the circle tightens, as it were, as it goes over this non-visible curve, and that should be measurable as well. So
Tightens?
the
What do
whole
you mean
looming
tightens?
thing,
Surely it would
it's
widen.
weird because that would simultaneously then stretch out things horizontally, tear them apart from each other, apparently, to be able to fit that all into a square. It's geometrically even impossible,
Okay, I don't
And
really
there's other
follow.
if you get me.
Not
This.
really. It seems weird that you'd say it tightens. Surely it would expand on a globe.
No. Look, you look into the distance. Well, if you are standing on a globe, then as the globe progresses around you, the lit look, if you're like on a flat square, then everything around you would be like a perfect circle. But on a globe, if refracted upwards into a flat plane, uh, the literal circle surrounding you would decrease in size as the distance goes on. As Do you see what I mean? Because you're moving over a globe. So
Well, that and the fact that stuff that dips away from you on a globe would also have an angular change. Like put a pin in a bobby pin cushion
yeah, of
and
course.
rotate it away from you. It also angles away from you, but you see the tops of buildings in the distance that are perfectly straight, perfectly level. They're not angling at all, despite this disappearing behind supposed curvature. So the contradictions keep on stacking up with this model. And you try to talk to ballers about it, they won't address it. They'll move on to something else. No, neither model, I guess, is perfect, but which one's closer to making sense?
But to kind of re-explain it is kind of hard to visualize. But just imagine that you are literally standing on a disk, and the disk then has the equator surrounding you, and well, according to the circle-centric flat Earth model, then that circle would have a very specific distance uh, as it goes around you. On a ball, if you take if you're standing on the top of a ball, then that distance would be relatively smaller because it's folded around the globe. See?
And then there's still the problem of water curving due to gravity. As far as we can tell, water always seeks a level surface, and as far as we know, doesn't curve due to gravity. And I guess in this round Earth gravity model, you're kind of assuming how gravity rays would work, but what's to say how thick or how thin these gravity rays are? What's to say that one gravity ray won't pull me in, another one won't pull me in a totally different direction and pull me apart? How does this model even work? Why don't we get rid of gravity and go with maybe an electromagnetic model? Maybe objects are electromagnetically attracted to the positive Earth. They say when you go up higher in the air, things get more negative, and maybe falling objects are just interacting electrically with the Earth, and something under those conditions is just accelerating toward another charged surface, like maybe a magnet or something. I don't know. I don't
Well,
know physics, but
I
maybe there's
still disagree with that concept that gravity is electrostatic based, because then you would be able to exclude gravity using, for example, a Faraday cage, because electromagnetism can be excluded, and you can't exclude gravity. It's you can only with motion compensate for it, but I don't think it's electrostatic because it doesn't have the same elements. So
well,
yeah, it's a common fallback position to say that it's all electrostatic, but it's
But
not.
being in
It's
a
not the
being in a
same thing.
Faraday cage wouldn't negate all electromagnetic effects. I mean, you're in a Faraday cage if you're in a car.
Well, I mean, if you go to Mud Fossil University, they've got some pretty interesting theories there about the giants and the flood and stuff like that, but also about electromagnetism. He says that supposedly you can get anti-gravity effects by pushing electrons out of their orbitals. And so if the electrons' orbitals are kind of, having to do with anti-gravity, maybe that's having something to do with the gravitational
Hey
effect.
guys,
The
Hey, new
diffraction,
guest. Hello, how you doing? Good to have you. What's your? How do you say your name? Kalimula.
um, Kalimala.
Kalimula. Did I say that right? One more time.
Perfect. Wow, this guy got it on his first try. That's dope. Because most people say Kalimula. I'm like, no, what could you have talk? This guy got on his first try. Shout out to you.
I probably won't get it right
All
the
right.
second attempt, but good to have
So,
you. Good to have you. What can we do you for?
so you guys are English?
Yep. Well, I don't know about
So I have a
Arif.
question.
We've
What
got
do
a
you think of,
Dane. Where are
so
you from,
you guys
Arif?
are Arsenal fans?
I'm not into
Uh,
football. Certainly, Sleeping Warriors into Liverpool FC.
Liverpool. At least it's not Chelsea or some stupid team. Why don't you guys like Arsenal?
Because they're from London.
Yeah, aren't you guys from England?
Yeah, but England's got more other places to it than just London.
Yeah, I guess so. So
So
you
you
like
must
Liverpool
not
more.
be in England, right? Where are you?
I am from Jersey.
Jersey.
Yeah,
Is English your first language?
yeah.
It sounds like you're European, but you got a slight European tone or dialect.
For real?
Yeah.
Could be upbringing.
I
You've got a
didn't even
Muslim
know that.
name, so I assume you're from a Muslim background, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's just his family's probably
So-
got a twang that he's picked up on, but he's from Jersey, so Jersey twang with a bit of Muslim.
So if you live in Jersey, you must live somewhere. Jersey's not that big a place, right?
It's a state.
Oh,
It's
Jersey
not
in
that
the.
big. It's
Sorry,
like,
I got that wrong too.
it's
I
right
thought you
under
meant
New
off
York.
the coast of England, Jersey.
Oh,
That one. New Jersey, New York. I mean, Jersey
Ah.
under New York.
That makes a lot more
right.
sense.
I-
thinking Jersey, Guernsey.
I was thinking Jersey, Guernsey, just off the north coast of France, right?
Oh
Yeah,
no,
same here.
not Europe, America.
I get you. Now it
So-
makes more sense.
So now we've got the
Okay.
small talk out of the way. Which side of the fence do you sit? Do you think the Earth is a sphere, or do you think the Earth is a flat plane?
I think it's a spear, but
Whatever
I
gives
saw
you that impression.
some video on YouTube
Cool.
where it
So
explained it, and it was like so. It was like the more you walk, it like I don't know, it made sense. It's like it's flat, but like the density, it's more flat. I don't know how to describe it, but it was like a perfect video. I wish I could find it, but it was like the perfect like video coming back at like someone that thinks the Earth is round.
Okay, so it
Because
sounds
like
like
the
you're not that far down the rabbit hole. So how did you come across Nathan's channel?
I was just interested in this topic, so I'm just like, I'm gonna keep watching these videos. Because now it's like a whole. So what do you guys think? It's flat or it's not?
Well,
flat?
hang on one sec. One question though. So is
Hold
today
on,
the
we've got
first time you've been
Troll
watching?
Jamie in again.
No, I mean I joined a few streams before, not just your channel. A lot of people are doing these, or flat or not streams. So I just checked out a few. I think I went to your channel before, because you have like the most viewers. But this is the first time I joined.
Cool.
Okay.
Any questions you've got for us then? Because we unequivocally know it's flat. So if you think it's a sphere, fire away if you've got any questions.
Well, the thing I want to do is I want to get my brother in here. He's not here right now, but he thinks it's round and he wants to argue with anyone that thinks it's flat. So I don't know if you're doing a live stream another day. Hopefully I'll get him in here.
Well,
But
this is the place for them to discuss it.
So sorry, are you
Yeah,
on the
that's
flat side
perfect.
then? Is that what you're saying? You're now investigating, but you're more convinced it's flat than sphere, or the other way around?
kinda, yeah.
It is flat, mate.
Why? Why so?
Because there's no evidence to prove that it's not. There's no credible or evidence to prove that it's not. You can look at pictures from space, and we showed yesterday in the last half of yesterday's show that we can prove that Santa's real. And we got like videos. We actually showed reindeers pulling sleighs. We showed footage in New
That's
York.
Israel.
Yeah. So Santa's real. So if we can prove that Santa's real, then how is that any different to proving that the Earth's a ball from space, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's an argument on both sides. Before, if you think the Earth was flat, maybe like 7 years ago, people think you're crazy. But now, more people are coming in saying, bringing in proof. There's like videos on YouTube. It was like I wish I could find the video, but it was like it's flat, but like the density is different, and if you just keep going straight, it was like I can't describe it, but it was like a perfect video. But yeah, that was like the most proof I got that it was flat.
Well, the amount of evidence to support it being spherical is, given that there's been like 2,000 years or so to be able to prove this stuff beyond all reasonable doubt, scientifically, credibly, that evidence just isn't there. And when you start looking into it yourself, not on YouTube, but if you actually go out there and try and do your own observations and look for the curve, you'll realize that you're seeing a lot more stuff than what you actually should be. You can see further. The horizon is not 3.1 miles away from the beach.
Well, you guys know more about this than I would. I'm just outside looking in, seeing what people are because you use like facts, numbers, do research. But do you make money off this or no?
No.
I've got an advertising going on my channel, and people give me money in super chat. So yeah, I definitely make money off talking about flat Earth. I'm keen to make
how much?
videos.
Like you make a living, or just like a small thing?
I wouldn't
like,
go that far.
here and there?
No, I wouldn't go that far. But certainly I do make money from making these videos. But that's always been the case. I've been on YouTube for about 10 years, and I haven't always made flat Earth videos. And I've always wanted to make money on making videos because I like making videos. So it's kind of an aside. I would say that I make money on YouTube making YouTube videos. The fact that my subject is flat Earth is kind of irrelevant because I'm a YouTuber. But this is the subject I'm most fascinated in at the moment, as you can appreciate, as you're fascinated in it too. So, you know, why wouldn't I make videos about this subject? It's extremely interesting.
It's a nice subject. You have like 100 people watching or something?
102 at the moment, about average for this sort of time of day.
Yeah. All right, I have one more question before I go. I'm going to come back in a different time.
Okay.
Is a crumpet a racist term?
Crumpet? No.
No, they're delicious with butter on them.
It's a cracker or something.
Crumpet, right? We would, if you were in any way to use it as a derogatory term,
I want to have tea with a crumpet.
Tea with a crumpet's just like a pikelet, or maybe whatever you'd call it.
Yeah, because I came into one English chat, and I'm like, I want a crumpet, and then everyone's saying that's racist. How's that racist?
Well, what it means if it was to be used in a derogatory term would be in reference to a woman that you wanted to sleep with. So a bit of crumpet would mean that you wanted to sleep with that girl.
Like what?
And the other thing to remember with racism is that it's subjective to the person on the receiving end of it.
Hey, hello, Aaron. How you doing, Fred? Oh,
like, say in a sentence.
Seriously, all this racism stuff is everything.
Oh wow, whole bunch of trolls all coming at once. Huh. Did we just manage to keep Arev with that little battle? That's all I managed to keep was you. Fought them all off, had you all on mute, and we lost everybody but you. Well, at least we've got you.
Oh, thank God for the mute button, man. It's just ridiculous.
Orchestrated or what? About 10 of them all joined at once. Funny stuff.
Oh, man.
Gotta laugh.
Good music, fun. Though. I kind of like that accordion, though.
Yeah.
At least there wasn't big black cocks on there this time.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't have the what's it called? The icons at the bottom don't show anymore, unless I specifically want to show them.
That was orchestrated by about 4 people all at once, wasn't it?
Oh man, I wonder how much time they spent doing that just to occupy.
They must have been in Discord,
15 seconds and they must
of
mouse
said,
clicks.
They must have been in Discord, and they must have said, right, on 3, 1, 2, and then all the notepads and phones and everything all went in all at once.
Synchronise your watches, lads. We're all going in.
Yeah. Well,
brilliant.
To be honest, there was like, I mean, I don't know, there was probably about 5 accounts all at once there.
Something like that.
You can tell it's the Americans, though.
The whole panel, the whole lot. There was 9 people on at once, 10 including me. The whole panel was full at one moment. It was like, wow, how many people can I eject at once? It's like whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Wicked.
It was ejection porn, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Eject. Fun stuff.
Like an orchestra.
It was.
They must have been practicing.
Yeah.
All right, when we interrupt the Nathan Oakley show, we all got to be on point now.
Yeah. I'm not even going to butcher that guy's name that came on. I'll look at it on the replay to get it correct for the next time he joins. But thank you very much for joining, man from Jersey. Really appreciate it. Good to have you.
Man
Thank you
from
for your
Jersey that
questions.
wasn't Jersey in England, it was Jersey in America.
Yeah, Jersey, New York, Jersey, not England, Jersey.
Isn't that somewhere near New Brunswick? That name, I've heard New Brunswick and Jersey being mentioned in the same sentence.
New York. Somewhere near, it's next to New York. New York State. It is in New York State, I'm pretty sure.
Where were we? We were just reminding people that there's not a lot of credible evidence to support the narrative, yet there is a consensus.
Yeah, science by
Well,
consensus.
But when you got like a circular logic, like, some of the Globers use, you got to introduce new, facts into the circle and see if the circle still holds. If the circle is broken, then, then they're probably going off of circular assumptions that really don't work outside the system. And so it's like, okay, so we're on a globe, so that supposes that gravity pulls everything in from the outer part. Okay, that's fine. But in that case, we should see, bendy water, and we're saying that, light is refracted by air molecules, which must be pretty strong, I guess, to bend light, but, yet the same gravity that somehow can bend air or bring air to the center and can overcome air can't overcome light. Like normally, if something, is able to be stronger than another thing, like say the air in this case, then another thing that is weaker than that second thing should definitely be pulled by the first thing, which is the strongest. So if gravity can pull air in the atmosphere and light is bent by the air, why can't gravity bend light? Another contradiction. It's like it's like the contradictions are standing up, like or stacking up in this house of cards. And then how would gravity work on a round globe? Would it pull everything down to the ground and make everything conform to the shape of the ground? Because you have rifts and valleys in oceans. Why don't we see a valley in an ocean? Or does it pull everything down to the earth like a ball? In that case, well, why do we have mountains and peaks and stuff like that over here with gravity on one side and not gravity on another?
Are you
So
saying are you referencing light locally? Because they do claim light is bent by gravity. You do have gravitational lensing. So they would say that the light from a distant star might literally bend itself around another star, so it brings itself into our view, even though technically it's in a different geographical location. All sounding familiar? But anyway, they do say that can happen. But just the way I took it from you is that you're saying locally, why don't we have the effects of this great ball that's producing all this gravity bending the light locally? Is that what you meant?
Yeah. And also, how would light reach us in space at all? Because there are other objects in space that light has to curve around too. How would, gravity reach us at all if it has to bend around, say, Mercury, bend around Venus, bend around an asteroid, bend around space dust or whatever, and then come to our atmosphere and bend some more? Would we even see linear light? Wouldn't we see, this light's reaching us from millions of miles away? We're not seeing any of this behavior out in space. None of this bendy light that's looping around all these planets and things and coming to us in straight lines and like the straight line in the picture that you have here. I mean, it's just another inconsistency.
Yeah, it is. It's all doublespeak. While they'll deny something on the one hand, they'll admit it on the other. Sometimes in the next breath.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
that's why.
New Brunswick is in New Jersey. I'm having that one.
Oh, okay. I didn't think it was New Brunswick. I thought he was from New Jersey.
Yeah, he said he was from New Jersey, but I've also heard New Brunswick in New Jersey, or New Brunswick and New Jersey being mentioned in the same sentence.
Your geography's generally pretty terrible, though. I've got to be honest here.
My geography?
Yeah, it's pretty awful.
Come on, then, ask me some, challenge me on something.
No, I'm not going to challenge you. This is never. You take everything to be a pissing competition.
I'm pretty good at geography.
Offhand,
All right,
sometimes
all right, let's do it the other way. What's your evidence to support the idea that I'm rubbish at geography?
I have no scientific evidence that you are poor at geography.
So that was a random pluck from your ass comment then.
Yeah, it was randomly. Just randomly, I can't think of any particular instance, but there has been a few cases where I've thought, God, you've got that very wrong, geographically speaking.
Okay then.
But we all have our faults. We all get things wrong. Not everyone can be as perfect as me.
No, I'm perfect. I'm perfect.
Right.
Everybody is equally as perfect. It's just I'm more perfect than everybody else.
We are all equal, except some are more equal than others.
Yeah.
Animal Farm.
And there you have Arwen.
Yeah.
We are all equal, and then you have Arwen.
No. We are all more perfect than each other.
At least he's getting the humour now.
It just needs to.
There was a time when
I
I
would
would
like-
be offended.
I would like to add some detail to this whole conversation I see in chat about gravity bending light. Well, if gravity would actually bend light, and then in a heliocentric model, you wouldn't even be able to see stars.
Yeah,
Because if gravity would bend light, then that would mean that all the gravity out there in the entire universe would bend all that light in a
That's not me, I'm already
non-linear
right.
way,
Oh.
all
Yeah.
scatter it all over the
Oh,
place.
yeah.
You would
Oh.
see a giant blur. So that does not make any freaking sense, not even theoretically.
But don't
I
they just
agree.
have the effects of gravitational lensing taking place when you're next to super dense things like black holes? That's what my understanding of the nonsense that they put out was. But I could be wrong about their nonsense. Often I am.
I think that they just make it up as they go along at times because it sounds good.
The black holes are completely made up, aren't they? Let's be
Gravitoms
honest.
and all science fiction, Star Trek-y theories. That's what it is.
Check Dark Star's comment. Nathan bashes Riley, Riley bashes Arwen, Arwen casts a spell of calming on himself.
I was going to say, Arwen
I
just
think
needs to
he's
take up
Cast a
meditation
spell on
and
Dark Star, Arwen.
he could
No.
detach himself from his body and just come and haunt us all.
Arwen don't
Omnipotently
do
as well.
it. Our
Dark Star
Lord
in his
doesn't
own
like magic.
delusions of grandeur.
Say again, Arif.
Worship his Egyptian deities, all he likes.
I was saying,
Right.
our God doesn't like witchcraft, man. Be careful. Doesn't like that stuff.
I don't believe in God. That said, I've got I mentioned that to Quantum Eraser, and he was very quick to say he could prove it. And he sent me the details, and I had a read through. I was still unconvinced, shall we say? And he said, "Well, give me a week. I'll put together a show." So I may very well be doing a show again with Quantum Eraser because he feels he can prove the creator, which is something that I'm interested to hear what he's got to say.
Well, I have a very
difference
detailed
between God.
interpretation of why God would not like sorcery and witchcraft. And it's not because there's, or maybe there is some entity out there that would forbid this on his list of rules. No, I think that what it actually was meant to tell people is that when you do this stuff, your life will get screwed up. And that is the punishment of God. When you do things that are not in line with creation, the rules inherent in our being and in the patterns of existence, then you will detract, you will be punished for it. Not because an entity hurts you because you didn't follow the rules, but because it is inherent in creation, in the patterns of creation itself. I think that is what it meant to, it was always meant to indicate. Sorcery is just, it doesn't help you, it only makes things worse. And so does witchcraft. And you can believe it can do all sorts of things. In the end, it will turn out to be not so good.
Nate, could
It's
you
kind of like
clarify
that. Oh, my bad. You were saying?
Nate, could you clarify what you just said then? You started off by saying that you didn't believe God existed, but you ended off by saying the creator. So it sounded like you interchangeably used God and creator in the same sentence with regards to presence. But I think that God may or may not exist, and the creator of where we live is not necessarily the same thing as God.
When you say creator, you're talking about an anthropomorphized version of whatever power has brought life and physicality into existence. Now, there may be very strong powers that can physically do that. that can create
The
stuff.
Alpha and the Omega, everything. Literally, it's described as the everything.
Sure, I'm sure that there is.
And that
something
is not a personified thing. And everything cannot be a personified thing. Doesn't make any sense.
But when I
But-
use
but
words
maybe
like
we
God
have
and
it-
creator, it makes it an anthropomorphized version of that. It makes it into something that is akin to a man with a beard.
Okay,
But,
so
you know,
let me ask you
maybe
this then:
we got this a little
if you don't believe
backward,
that
you
there's a
know.
God, if you don't believe that there's a God, do you believe that there's a creator?
No, because again, that's it. The way you phrase that makes it sound. Hi, Matrix. How you doing?
Hello.
Good to have you again. It makes it sound
to be
like
here.
the same thing. Man with beard, creator, dude. The
No,
guy who
no,
creates
I'm
stuff.
distinguishing between creator and God. I'm not comparing.
Well,
what I'm
what do
getting
you
at
think
is
you mean by
ultimately
creator? What do you mean by creator?
intelligent designer of some kind that's not God, the opposite of God.
Well, by intelligent, you mean it has a brain, right?
No, I just mean not God, but intelligent enough to design and create.
But what is intelligence?
Purposeful design. It's more like there has been a system that makes it work inherently, and it cannot not self-create. Basically, it was
Okay, I mean, when they
Yeah,
anthropomorphized them back in the day, you've
Structure.
got
They're
various
saying
different
that
forces that are attributed to these powers. You know, Thor, lightning, etc., etc., etc. So they very deliberately take the powers that I think are of creation, and I wouldn't call them God or the creator. They're just the physical powers of creation, things like electricity, things like magnetism, things like earth, wind, and fire. Those are the real things of creation. I wouldn't call any of them gods. In the past, many have.
But the thing is, you might in a spirit which may be anti-God, incidentally, and that's the problem with some of this scientism versus faith-based systems, in that you're always looking for a godless mechanism that somehow self-starts without will, volition, or design, and it leads you down these rabbit holes where you have this weird science, and I really want to say globe science included, where you're trying to explain it with these godless mechanisms that have no design, no volition, and they're trying to say, well, how'd the sun get into the sky? After a while, you might have to come to the place where, hey, the designer put it up there. We don't know. We're going to have faith. We can know about some of the scientific factors. Yes, some of them were not. And the thing is, you're talking about anthropomorphizing, as in where the culmination and man is the summit, and man can breathe life into any object that he chooses to anthropomorphize. Maybe it's backward. Maybe God breathed life into us, and other things kind of have that God essence, not the man essence where man is the pinnacle, but God breathed life into us, and we are like God in that circle, not where things are like man in the anthropomorphized godless circle.
But you took a very
What if
very
we collectively? What if we collectively are God?
You took some steps there. You said, we look at the sun in the sky, we ask ourselves what it is and how it is, and we say we don't know. Therefore, we must have faith and attribute a God to putting it there. And I say no. You can just end it at saying, I don't know how it got there.
No, I don't think you can end it there. Surely the question then becomes, and you can't not have the question, well, ultimately, where did humans come from on the planet? Because it's essentially where we created. Did we evolve, or was there some other explanation?
Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
I think
That's what I'm getting
way
at.
beyond us.
Right,
if
you
the
don't know
chicken
the
came
answer.
first, it was evolution. If the
Not
egg came
knowing-
first, it was creation. Ultimately, there could be other explanations.
Seeking the answer to it is perfectly acceptable to me. Not knowing that you don't know the answer and then making one up, to me, is totally unsatisfactory.
And
I agree.
for the chicken and the egg thing, maybe, the answer that, we could kind of come up with, that I kind of came up with, is, what came first, the chicken or the egg? The spirit, because it seems like the spirit can only rightly divide flesh between living and dead, between true and false. A true spirit versus a false spirit puts the line between things and says, okay, we can go here, but no further. Or if you go past this, Rubicon, it turns into something else entirely. So, if you want to know the chicken or the egg, ask the spirit. It's and at that point you're like, okay, well, who put it in motion? Who had the design and the thinking to put this into place? When you invite back in the spirit, which atheistic materialistic science has thrown out and gone down a mad rabbit hole.
You're immediately anthropomorphizing it. You're saying who. Why does there have to
And
be
the
a
spirit,
who?
which atheistic materialistic science has.
Yeah, mute your watch page when you join. What's your take on this, Matrix?
Yeah, I think the concept of God is beyond us. I don't think we can
I agree.
fathom what God really is. We have put a label on him, it's whatever, and we seem to put that label and we can't get past that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, don't give up. Read the books about him like the Bible and see if it rings with reality. See if it rings with the spirit of truth and test the spirits. Because if objective truth and reality is out there, then, if God loves us, he gave us the spirit to divine this and eventually be in communion with him, when we die and leave this mortal coil. So don't give up, and just say, everything's true and we're just going to, abdicate our role to, seek, objective truth. Go and read the stuff that's out there about it and be like, okay, this sounds true, this sounds false, and be honest about it.
Yeah, what you're telling me is just you're telling me to go read these Bibles, these books, as if they haven't been around since I was born.
Mm-hmm.
They've been around. I have never been inclined to want to read them because I consider them to be bullshit. The truth doesn't have to be shoved in people's face. There's a thing about a truth that instantly that is the truth.
Yes.
And
if hell is real, then maybe we could save people from hell with the truth and save.
But if you know that hell is real or not, why are you saying if? Why are you saying
assume
if?
that hell is a thing?
If hell is real,
hell is most likely real. Based off the people that have died and gone there and had visions about it, and it makes sense. These angels cast out of heaven that don't want to be with God. They're probably going to be bored because they're removed from the source of light and goodness, and all they have to do all eternity is torture humanity.
That all of these concepts that you have, angels, demons, hell, these are all man-made concepts, correct? So they might as well not exist.
Mind-made.
How do you know they weren't given by revelation? From angels that were like, hey, we're going to tell you about this place because we love you and we care about you and we don't want you to go to this place if possible. How do you know it's not by divine revelation?
No, I don't know. But how do you know? How do you know enough to put the blind faith into it?
We got to have the spirit of truth, the chicken or the egg, the spirit.
I have no idea what you're saying, brother.
You're making
no sense. You're making no sense.
Yeah, the spirit is no different to Anthony
he's
saying
just saying
beautiful,
nice words and stuff, and think that he's making points and facts, and he isn't.
Yeah.
So you tell us what the facts are then?
There are no facts. He's not saying no facts. He's telling me to read books and Bibles, and
everything's relative. I got you.
Yeah, we will all end up falling out if we continue on this subject. You realise that, right? That's where this is destined.
Yeah. No, the answer is nobody knows.
Every book has its truths, and it requires your own personal discernment and your temporary life choice path to be able to engage in that. And every book will always have lies in it, and every book will always have truths in it. It's up to you as to what you're going to focus on. If you're going to exclude everything because it has lies, just figure out with people. If you're going to exclude everyone that has ever told a lie in their life, you will be alone for the rest of your life. And that's how I deal with things. It's just you take the good and you exclude the bad. And it's all about learning what is the truth, what are lies, and then working with that as you go.
Yeah, well said. It's chew the meat and spit out the bones, basically. There's lots of truth in the Bible. Huge amounts, but a lot of it's encoded. When it was punted out, it was for the priests to decode the information and become all-knowing, of knowledge, but knowledge that in some instances you shouldn't have. You weren't allowed to predict the future, for example. That was heresy. So therefore, if you had prior knowledge of gestation periods, then you wouldn't actually be allowed to know that. You'd be burnt. So you've got to encode this information. But knowing that it's encoded means that you've got to decode it. Well, for me, it's like if this information is currently out there anyway, you can find the information yourself if you are looking for it. We have a wealth of information. We are in a golden age in that regards. There is pretty much anything you could want to know. Everything ever published is a keystroke away, which is, to me, astonishing.
And the thing, with that is, that's why you need discernment. And you're not going to get discernment with the material because, material can change form based off of many things. If you're at the spiritual level, automatically, you know the essence of a thing. And you know what its physical manifestation is going to be because just about any spirit fights for a physical manifestation of itself. Like in the movie, not Poltergeist, Exorcism, where the evil demon from hell
Hey,
takes over
Ruhif.
the girl, and you get this physical manifestation of just evil and cursing and stuff like that. It's the same with the spirit. So if you go down to the spiritual level, you're at the right place, to prioritize, what you need to be looking for in truth, falsehood, and different things. And that's why you need to give people a spiritual dimension that has been ripped out by godless materialistic science.
I assume you're an atheist, Ruhif. Am I right? No, that wasn't Ruhif.
I think people are not very good at deciphering the intent behind these books, because sure, there's a lot of good information and a lot of good advice, but in every one of these books there's an intent behind them, and people are not aware of it, so they read it and they cold-heartedly believe the whole thing.
Well, believing the whole thing is blind belief, and that is bad with everything. If you believe a person blindly, then you're a slave to them. If you believe a book blindly, then you're a slave to that book. It's all about distinction. It's all about being able to distinguish things, critical thinking.
That line directly relates to heliocentrism, though. And if you believe blindly, then you're going to be blinded by the heliocentric priests, which is, of course, the scientific consensus that everybody seems to adopt.
Yeah.
Well,
it's all about figuring it out
Hold on one
yourself.
second. Hold on. Is that you, Spurs?
Hello.
Oh, it was Spurs, and I booted him.
Damn.
Sorry. I'm too trigger happy today, Spurs. Sorry.
It's really sad what's going on right now with the flat Earth situation. That these globe heads really, they don't find what to say. They keep bringing up these bullshit points. You know what I'm saying? And it's
honest,
almost
I totally
deceitful.
disagree. I totally disagree. Flat Earth at the moment is in a really good state, not a really bad state. These ballers they're keeping away from Nathan's chat because they're going to get him battered. Paul Voigt won't come back in because he knows that he's not got evidence to support his position. I don't think the Rumpus will be coming back in because he's been told by ED lot not to come back in. And Ruhif is not going to be far behind him. Scott Veach won't come back in. I mean, these ballers are keeping away for good reason. It's because they can't prove the nonsense, right? I think Flat Earth's in a really good position.
Hiding like vampires from the light. But the thing is, with this flat earth stuff, we have to be careful. That's why, spiritual discernment is important really in any endeavor. But, with science, trying to give, godless, avolitional, no will, no design, no intelligence mechanisms, you might be pulled toward denying the spirit, which has the will and the design to put this in motion. Living examples of.
I think
like,
that we're not really in danger of doing that anytime soon. As long as you just stick to the scientific method, then that doesn't really come into the picture. It's when you go into scientific philosophy, that is when you get the godless part. That is when you get. It's all about the far-reaching philosophy of what is far beyond our understanding, far beyond our grasp to actually figure out using the scientific method. That's where the godlessness tends to come in. But you don't have to worry about that as long as you just spend your time figuring out what you can grasp, what you can figure out.
Shout out to Joey for the super chat. Says, good AM, folks. Causeway still flat. Hashtag globe exit.
But you just gotta watch that spirit because the spirit will creep in. Like I look at it like God gives us some of His secrets, and He's like, "You want to know how this is done? I'll teach you. About my divine mind." But man gets exalted and self-important and puffed up and says, "Well, I will understand the universe without God." And God's like shaking His head and is like, "Okay, have at it." Just like in the garden, He gave us everything. That's like socialism. He put everything on a platter, and what do? We hearken to Satan's promises. And God's like, well, now I can't trust you. Now you're covered in sin. You're not holy anymore. I have to kick you out. And you showed me that you don't appreciate what you're given. You like to work for it. So now you're going to work until the earth. You're going to suffer. People are going to die.
But there's another
people are-
interpretation
So
to that
because
story.
of one
Rafe.
person did something messed up, the entire human race is condemned. Do you think that's a very just God?
No,
Yes.
but
Righteous?
there is another interpretation to that story that's very different, and that is that when Adam and Eve, the pre-creation, existed, there simply wasn't any purpose for their perpetual existence. There was
Can I just
nothing
get a
they
mic
would
check?
learn.
Can you hear me? Hello?
So Satan was introduced and
Hey, Spurs.
mortality
Sorry I kicked
to
you.
basically
you can.
continuate the learning process. And this is what my philosophy is all about, the alpha and the omega concept. What the alpha and the omega, which it literally is everything and knows everything, does. What it does is to fracture itself, to be able to experience and learn from a minor perspective. Because if you know everything, then there is nothing left to learn. So
Then everything will be
God,
boring.
the
for you.
creator, has been reducing itself, fracturing itself into minor beings, into limited consciousness, into time perception in a linear way, to be able to actually provide purpose. I think that is what it's all about, and I think that's what the Adam and Eve story is all about. Satan is just a servant. He was there, he was introduced to bring in a new depth, to bring in the darkness, to bring in a struggle from which spirits can learn and change, and the world could basically unfold through that. Otherwise, Adam and Eve would just be in paradise, would be nothing. It would still be there. They would have no reason to procreate. That wouldn't even exist. Everything would just be the same.
Can I
So
just say a big hello to
it was
Spurs?
the concept
I'll
of the
allow
introduction of change,
I
basically.
want to say a big hello to Spurs. So I know you've got undoubtedly got something to say on this subject, Spurs. So what's your take on all of this?
Well, hello. Yeah, no, I wasn't. I wanted to change the subject actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to talk about the moon.
Okay.
I know Arwen likes
Goodbye,
to
me.
talk about the moon and. Hey,
Good by me.
I was done about that. So.
the moon, because you, as you know, I'm discussing with the borders their model and all these things, and they say the moon is 238 miles, that 1,000 miles away from Earth, and they say they've left something on the moon, and they can fire a laser at that moon. So, have you seen the Globebusters video where they
I haven't, but I
fire
know
a
what you're
laser
talking about.
at
Apollo
the moon?
17 left reflectors on the moon, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I just want to know what the take on it is. Even
Well,
the hoax is bigger than.
There's evidence that shows they were able to fire lasers to and from the moon before the retroreflective claim anyway. So we're not seeing anything different to what we already could do, and we can't prove that the light that's being reflected back is actually the retroreflector that's doing it. We were able to fire light to and from the moon beforehand anyway.
It
I
is
can give you a
claimed.
citation for that if you'd like.
Yeah, if you've got that citation, I'll bring it up on screen if you've got its hand, Anthony. But yeah, it is claimed that they could fire lasers at the moon and get a return signal prior to them leaving retroreflectors on there. So yeah, this was reported prior to the Apollo program. So yeah, you don't believe everything you read. Simple as that.
So, I mean, can I show what Globebusters, what they did?
Yeah, if you like. Did you want me to share your screen?
Okay, so I'll share my screen. Oh, we'll just flick through it anyway.
Yeah, you'll have to give me a second or two just to get.
Guys, I'm gonna take my exit now. I'm gonna go eat.
Okay, it's good to have you here, Matrix, as ever.
Thank you for having me.
Cool, man.
Bye.
Let-
I'll let you know when I'm ready, Spurs. It will just take me a few seconds.
Yeah, that's fine.
And Spurs, when you finish doing that presentation, rather than switching screens to me, if you just click the link I've just left you in the side chat in Skype, and then just scroll down to the bottom, and where you see it's towards the bottom, it's not quite at the bottom, but it's nearly at the bottom. You'll see a newspaper article, an old one, and then you can read it yourself. 1963.
After
No,
you've
I
done-
definitely have a look at that. Because the ballers, they were trying to attack me with, their scientific method of how they know the distance to the moon. They were saying, have you looked at these videos? And, so I looked at, am I screen sharing, yeah?
You are now, yeah.
Yeah. So we have, and it looks like, they're doing it, but is this kind of thing possible? So let's have a look at the video.
No. Sorry, you carry on, Spurs. So, what's
Okay,
your
so
point with
I'm
all
just
this?
trying to point out is that the ballers, they say that they are able to fire whatever at the moon and make measurements from that. You see this lady now. She says she's pointing at
It's a new husband
vector on the
reporting for duty.
Good to have you. Thanks for saying hello.
That wasn't. the
and
person
they've got
speaking.
this high-powered laser.
Nate, that was a recorded message, right?
No, that was Tim saying hello.
No, that's me, man. I'm here.
Oh, sounded like a robot thing.
So it's two
Yeah.
directions. It's either the biggest hoax, and they're really pushing this thing, or they're really doing it. They're really firing something at the moon. But I just wanted Arwen to touch on it. Because he says that we can't. Well, it says it's not possible, right? So I couldn't really give it the best explanation. Like I said, I'm not a scientist, but I was encouraging them to come and speak to you about it, or to you, Anthony, or to you, Nathan. But they seem to think that the discussion won't be held. So, I mean, we see this. What do we make of this? Do we just dismiss it? Do we just say it's television? Yes. So,
Well, for me, the first thing you have to do with any claim by any baller is to validate their claim. So you have to look at their claim critically and say, okay, let's see what their claim is. And their claim is that they're bouncing light off the moon. Okay, let's see what they're doing. And basically what it shows for the proof of bouncing light off the moon is a graph, correct?
yeah, data. Yeah.
Is that falsifiable? Could that be faked?
Well, that's what I'm saying here. This is what I'm asking. Yeah, I'm asking is, I mean, obviously, I don't think this is possible. This is television for me, but this is what they use as evidence. They use this as. I mean, they cited me this video. They said, "Have you watched Mythbusters?"
We need to get good at seeing their methodology and testing the methodology. Can radio waves or whatever the heck they're using attenuate? Can it slow down? Can it slow down in effectiveness and signal? Would that affect the rate at which it's returned? Like you say, is it something else that's returning the signal?
So hold on. So the final question, with all that is, if, for example, the ballers could prove that they send something to the moon and get the distance, would flat earthers be satisfied with that number?
You'd have to prove that it
To
was
that
hitting
effect.
the moon and bouncing back, and it wasn't hitting somewhere else.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. If they could,
listen. The
unequivocally
thing is,
prove
Spurs,
that-
listen.
Mhm.
If you do the orbital mechanics and calculate the distance that the Earth travels per second, which you can do, by the time the beam sets off from Earth, travels 240,000 miles, hits the retro reflector on the moon's surface, and then bounces back to Earth at the same angle that it left, the signal's never received by Earth because it's moved. That's the
Well,
first.
this is what I
point.
said to them, and then they just threw back at me some, all kinds of word salad. And I said, look, you're gonna have to speak to Anthony or Arwen or
Okay.
Nathan.
Okay,
And
so
they
we've
were
got
just
this
like,
on
well,
screen now.
As far as I
assume
know,
this
radio
is-
waves can't
No,
Bear
can't
with me.
even
We've
move
got this on
through a
screen
vacuum.
now. So this is the thing that
he's into
debunks this
a
for
lot,
me,
so
as far as I'm
I don't know if he's
concerned.
listening, but he should. Even Jem, if he knows a lot about the moon, but like I said, the question was, would flat earthers believe that if they were able to prove?
Well, it's impossible because, like I said, the signal would never be received by the receiver because it's a retro reflector. It sends it back at exactly the same angle, so therefore it's moved in space-time, so therefore it's never going to receive the signal. It's nonsense. Now, can you see my screen?
Yes. So if you can go through this,
Yes.
you can give us a date first
Right.
of all.
In the meantime, whilst I'm doing this, Spurs, if you could look up the date of the retro reflector's mission, the claim by science, for when the retroreflectors were left on the moon. Whilst I'm reading this, but I'll read it verbatim so that if everybody in chat can't see this. But
just before
this
you
is
do,
an
can I just
article
ask the chat,
dated November.
Just before you do, so the chat, was it, am I right? I'm pretty sure it was Apollo 17, Gem Panda or someone in the chat. Can you confirm that was the retroreflectors mission? Thanks. Sorry, you carry on, Anthony.
So on November the 5th,
You don't even need to hit the retro
1963
reflectors. You could, if you know a ham operator, he can hit the moon.
Right.
Yeah, but you can't prove that you're hitting the moon, though.
This is kind of the point, though, Tim. If you're using it as proof that they've been to the moon because there's retroreflectors and you can do it without them, it doesn't prove you've been to the moon, right?
I just woke up.
And
I
how
didn't hear
would
it
that
was to prove that they went to the moon.
retroreflector reflect anything back at the perfect exact angle back?
It wouldn't. That's the point. And even if it did, it would miss the Earth because the Earth and the moon have moved relative to where the signal was originally sent from.
That as
How
well.
long does the
But
signal
Hey,
take
David.
for
how-
Anthony?
Hello,
At
it's me.
such
Hi.
a huge distance,
Hi.
how do you know that reflector is going to reflect it perfectly back? It doesn't make any sense in how reflection even works.
I agree
And it
completely.
doesn't even make sense because the moon is supposedly this curved object. Wouldn't it curve off the moon and go somewhere else? How do you know where it's going to come back? It looks like they're acting like it reflects back perfectly in a straight line, which doesn't make geometric sense.
Well, the claim is that
The
the
reflector would
retroreflector
have
will
to be
bounce the-
perfectly lined up with you.
No, the claim is that a retroreflector will bounce the beam back at the exact same angle that the beam was received, right? Now,
How?
even if that is true, then we have an orbital mechanics problem. But anyway, let me read this. Friday, November the 5th. So Spurs keep looking for the date of the Apollo mission.
Yeah, I'm
but it
looking.
says
Yeah,
Gem,
I
just
see
to
it,
I
get
wouldn't trust
21st
that
of July,
idea.
11,
1969,
14,
yeah.
and 15. So the
The
earliest
installation of the retro reflector.
was July 1969.
Well,
Yeah,
that's what it
thanks to
says
Gem.
here.
Yeah,
So
Gem,
November the
let
5th,
us know.
1963, Moscow, on the November the 4th, a concentrated beam of light has been bounced off the moon and detected on Earth by a Soviet observatory in the Crimea. This feat, reported today by TASS, the Soviet press agency, duplicates an experiment conducted late last year by engineers of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The super-intensive beam was produced by a laser, a device that amplifies and focuses the light. The principle is believed to have had potential use in space communications and something distance energy transmission. The Soviet announcement said a laser had been installed at the focal point of the 100-inch reflector telescope at the Crimean Astrophysical Observatory. Now, this is was this 6 years before they actually put the retroreflector on the moon? To prove that the retroreflectors are on the moon, they'd have to prove that the previous, like without bouncing it off a retroreflector, gives you X amount of photons, and then using the retroreflector gives you more photons because it's a reflector, it's going to reflect them back, but then explain how the orbital mechanics problem is overcome because, again, the Earth and the moon, relative to where they were when this beam was fired, have moved. Over a long distance, that little movement is a lot. It's going to miss.
So how many seconds and how much movement are you proposing here?
You tell me. You're the one with the science.
More
How long
than
does it take?
0.
No,
If we
you're
can get a
refuting
paper-
it, so I
paper
just asked you.
explanator, He can explain it, I think.
No, I think he's just saying that they are moving, which they are, according to your model.
So is
But
the
what I want to know
movement
is
of the beam
will
independent
flat
from the
earthers
movement of the
accept
Earth when
if
it's
we
shot from the
see
Earth?
an experiment? Would we say, okay, look, we can see the laser bouncing off the moon?
No, because you can't prove it's bouncing off the moon and not something in between us that we can't see there, like the firmament. And even if it was bouncing back off the moon, it would only prove that the moon is reflective and it doesn't prove its distance. So ultimately, like, yeah, you might receive something back from it, but it is a luminous object and it does appear to be shiny of some kind. So you would expect to get something back off it, but that just shows, for me, close proximity to Earth, not 238,000 miles from Earth.
Well, Tim, do you have a good argument for this? You know, I mean, he's just countered everything, what you've just said, and just basically dismissed it.
With evidence.
He hasn't countered anything that I've said because I haven't really said anything yet.
I'm sure Spurs is talking about the general we of Ball Earth that believes the reflectors prove that A, you've been to the moon, and B, that you can measure the distance with them. And he's saying, well, no, because relative to us, the moon and Earth system are moving. I don't think that's in dispute. You're saying, well, how much? But whether or not we know that, it's not in dispute that in your model it moves, and also it seems to have been done prior to the reflectors being left there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, you can. I'm pretty sure you can do it with a ham, like a ham radio. And really, the thing is I was trying to establish if the beam, when you shoot it up at the moon, is independent from the Earth's movement all of a sudden. Because
Tim,
at that point,
Gem says
Well,
check
it
your
wouldn't
nature can
matter.
Gmail.
theoretically move
Tim,
through a vacuum.
hold on. Gem Panda says check
Sound
your
up.
Gmail, Tim. Yes.
Gmail, okay.
Yeah. Check your G plus messages. Sorry, G plus. I only saw the G.
Hmm.
It's in the chat anyway. He's reading now. But look, this needs to be, because look, obviously I'm going to converse with the boilers, and they'll be saying things like, oh well, that wasn't understood, it wasn't explained, and
The two things you need to say to them is, well, how did they address the fact that we could bounce light off the moon before the retroreflectors were there? Meaning that after the retroreflectors were there, why is it just the retroreflectors that are the key point to bouncing light off the moon if we could already do it? And therefore, how can you prove that we're bouncing it off the retroreflector? Because it might be the case that, let's suppose that the retroreflectors are actually there, they don't actually work at all, but they think that they're working because they're getting a signal back, but didn't realize we were already getting a signal back anyway. But even so, for me, the interpretation of receiving a signal back is proof of close proximity, not a 230,000 mile moon. And the fact that they'd have to still explain the orbital mechanics problem of both bodies are moving relative to each other. And the signal that gets stuck in the middle has to come back to the receiver. It's going to miss. So that is the biggest one for me. How are they going to? Because I think it takes 3.9 seconds for for the laser light to travel there and back. But in that time, the receivers moved. So
it's
a load of
moving.
nonsense,
The moon
in
is
my opinion.
moving at 0.666 miles per second.
Good old Illuminati. Has anybody ever tried it with the sun?
Are you joking?
Without reflectors and stuff, just seeing what happens if you try it with the sun, just to try it. Because if everything's so close, could they reach the sun with some of these signals?
So yeah, every second it's moving more than half a mile. So yeah, it's moving.
So we're kind of conflating this issue here. I thought it was about to prove that they have reflectors on the moon, and then it kind of goes into how far the moon is. But like I said,
Perhaps you
when you shoot the
misunderstood.
beam at the moon,
original
is it
question
then
was,
independent from the Earth's movement? Just like an airplane going up into the sky, when flat earthers 3 years ago would say, well, they could just travel east or west or whatever. Is it independent from the Earth's movement all of a sudden?
well, it can't be by your model because of Coriolis, right?
Not because of Coriolis, dude. Come on, man.
As a general principle, when birds fly up in the air, they jostle to and fro by the 1,000-mile-per-hour air. It looks like they're flying pretty smoothly up there.
That's just so silly. It's painful, dude.
That's
You're
the
right.
spirit of
It
what
is
you're
silly.
talking about, though.
Nobody's proposing that there's 1,000-mile winds in either direction, dude.
That's the only way to keep unmoving clouds over a spinning Earth, right? Am I
The
missing something?
atmosphere, as well as the water, is actually pulled down by gravitational forces of the Earth. It's quite an amazing thing.
So this light that can be refracted by air molecules can be refracted by gravity too, right?
That's really neither here nor there.
All right.
So yeah, there's still two parts to it. First part is that it seems to have been done prior to moon landings, which would debunk the necessity to actually have the reflectors. That's part one. And part two is you've got the moon moving independently, as that was part of your question, at 0.666 miles per second.
Yeah, I guess we would have to know, do they, kind of like when you're shooting something that's running, you kind of lead it a little bit. Maybe they lead it just the slightest bit. I mean, I have absolutely no
But
clue
that would only
how they
address
do
the
this.
outgoing journey of the signal. What about
Yeah,
the
good
signal
point.
coming back? That can't be led.
But we know it's moving, right?
Yeah,
We can
but
watch
like
it.
I'm trying to establish, I'm sure that it's probably still has the relative speed of the Earth when it's coming back.
The only
I really don't know
explanation
how
that
like
would work.
that kind of stuff works. Actually,
It
The
wouldn't.
only
This is the
explanation
point.
that would work is that there is a retroreflector on the moon, but it doesn't work, and the signal that's being bounced back is the same signal that was there before the retroreflector, but you guys think it's the retroreflector that's bouncing it back. But if it's the only
I
explanation
never
that would
said
work
that.
would be that
I don't believe that.
no, that's the only explanation that would work.
Yeah,
And
but
I did
really, I
actually
mean,
say
I
that
personally
this
have kind of a
would be
reformed
both,
epistemology about
in,
these
in
things. I don't really say
but
that I believe that. I'm just saying, if it's really about the distance, simple geometry with several observers can prove how far the moon is.
Well, no, we'd need
If you're
to.
trying to
We
do that,
need to
but you can't
validate that.
really prove that there's retroflectors on the moon.
But this is the point. So the retroreflectors are there to prove that the elites have validated the distance. Yeah? That's the point. So it's a two-pronged thing. Number one, if you want to believe that it's been validated by the retroreflectors and that is proven by firing a laser at them, you have to get around the awkward detail that it's already been done prior to them putting them there. So it doesn't validate anything, unfortunately. And then you're left with doing trig, which doesn't validate what you come up with in terms of a measurement.
Yeah, like I said, I don't necessarily believe or disbelieve that they've put retroreflectors up there, but like I said, if we're
But you have to,
talking
though,
about
Tim.
the
It's your model.
distance,
It's
it's
your
easy.
science,
Bring it
Tim.
in
You have
as an
to accept that
argument,
that's
and
true.
you do.
And he doesn't have to. Dawn demonstrated that yesterday with the car in space. He doesn't.
No,
He does have
to accept it, Nathan.
Well, literally,
No, we don't
though,
have to accept
literally, Dawn
anything.
didn't accept
There's
it, did he?
no.
See, he
Yeah,
doesn't
NASA
accept
have
it
put
either.
retroreflectors on the moon, Tim. You have to accept that it's true if you believe we live in a ball, because
Nope,
NASA is
not at all.
the provider of most
They're not
of the
mutually
nonsense that
exclusive, and
ever.
I'll explain why. Because the deductions that are made from a person like me to kind of heavily infer logically that the Earth is a sphere, have nothing to do with NASA, have nothing to do with SpaceX, Spaceman, nothing at all. It's kind of things like the sun and moon not really changing in angular size throughout the day, and then setting from bottom up. It's things like obstruction. It's things like the moon phases, new moon, solar and
Don't
lunar
forget the celestial sphere,
eclipses.
Tim.
I mean, I could go on and on. And from all of these
Got the
things that we
celestial
can all
sphere.
observe, it seems as though the Earth is a sphere.
Yeah.
That is a good
Got
question.
I
it.
mean,
How do
for
you
us,
get a half moon that looks like a perfect half of a coin that has a straight terminator line with a round Earth shadow? That's one thing that I could never get. How do you get a half full moon with a round Earth shadow?
It's
I mean,
because you're so ignorant. And I'm going to say this very
Adham.
loosely.
But the
Straight
thing
to
is,
No,
Adham.
we
listen.
need to
No,
see if we
Hey,
can build
listen.
anything
Listen
off
to
of your
me.
theories.
All
We
right.
can't build anything
All
off
right.
of your theories because they're false and
All
they're
right. No,
somewhat
no, no.
ridiculous. So we're
You
going to get
don't
a better
know.
theory.
You
The
don't know
moon
what you're talking
phases would
about is the
change
problem.
constantly over
Nothing
the
with the
day
moon
as the
phases
moon
has to
moves
do with the
around.
shadow of the Earth. This is like literally day one flat Earth. Seriously, dude. You and your
Educate
little
us.
Not the
robot
shadow of the
crap
Earth.
Educate us
No,
are
then,
it's not the
Tom.
shadow
absolute
of the Earth.
junk,
So let's
dude.
hear. Let's
So
hear
Moon
when
Tim
phases
you
are
explain
have
not
the
the
wrong
shadow of the
conception
Earth. That's ridiculous.
saying with the heliocentric model, you're immediately wrong. You're immediately wrong. It has nothing to do. Listen to me. The moon phases have nothing to do with the shadow of the Earth on the moon. Okay? So you can go
I
look
know.
that up and figure out what moon phases are in the heliocentric model.
Well, the moon phases are, according to the heliocentric model, the light of the sun causing the shadow on the moon. But then, in that case, if the moon was spinning around the Earth and the Earth was spinning around the sun, then the moon would change its phase, its shadow, in relation during the day. Well, it doesn't do that. It changes its phase very slowly during the month, not during the day. It would change constantly. And it doesn't do that. So how do you
I
explain
mean,
that?
this is a little better than Arave's point, but dude, I just don't know what to say. Like, you need to look at models of how this works. You need to get like a light beam or
but that
something
doesn't
and do it
help
yourself,
you.
because it just
It
works,
doesn't
man.
explain
Well,
why the
let's
moon
find another
phase doesn't
mechanism. Maybe the
change
moon is
during
only
the
half
day.
luminous, and you can color like half a tennis ball and get all the faces of the moon because you only have half a moon anyway, or half a lit moon. Maybe we could invite another definition, and you get all the phases that way too. Maybe we could invite a mechanism that explains a bit more, because I can't see how you get a flat Terminator line with a whole round moon with some sort of shadow from some sort of object or whatever mechanism it is. I don't see how it is. And I haven't really gotten a satisfactory explanation for that.
Yeah, because you just have, first of all, at the very fundamental level, you don't understand what they're actually proposing in the heliocentric model. When you said
We
the
figured it
half
out by
moon
now.
with
No,
the shadow of from the Earth, you literally are a noob. Like, quite literally, N00B, you're a noob, dude. It's
Well,
pathetic.
here's your opportunity, be the change you seek. I need you to explain it, less ad hominem. Otherwise, mute.
No, see, ad hominem is not just an insult. And this is
Yeah,
something
no,
that
it is.
Nathan
It's
goes
also when
on
you're trying
all
to
the
attack their
time. Okay, I
credibility, their
insulted you.
intelligence, their ability. When you're focusing
You
on
have no
correcting the person
argument, though.
as
You have
opposed
to
to
have
the
an
argument.
argument
If
from
you're
an
attacking
ad
with argument,
hominem.
that's argumentum ad argumentum, which is what it should be in the first place. Arguing against an
Argumentum ad
argument. If you're arguing
argumentum.
against
Hey, if
me,
we're
you're
so
going to focus
noob
on
and you're
me.
such
That's
an
the simplest
expert at your
definition.
model,
Mute.
then explain why the moon phase doesn't change in the course of the day.
It took the words out of my mouth, Arwin.
Do you really not know that either, Nathan, at this point?
Do
I want
you
to tell
know?
us
You're such an expert.
Exactly. I want you to tell us.
So, really, this is a conceptual problem that you guys have, and I can't do that
You
from a
don't know,
phone
do you?
sitting down.
It's not that it's...
You
You
guys
don't
need
know.
to
Well,
do it yourself. I'm
you've
not going
already-
to spoon feed you how the
Oh,
freaking
you
moon
don't
phases
know.
work. I'm
conceded.
sorry.
We're the noob,
It
so
is
explain
just
to
a
us, Mr.
conceptual
Expert.
thing.
Why
you've
do
said
the
already
moon
you can take
phases not change
inferences.
over the course of the day?
You can take inferences, and I accept what you say. You're taking it by inference, and that's perfectly acceptable. I'm not going to berate you and tell you it's a belief and all that kind of crap. But I'd like to hear how you have taken that inference in this regard with the moon. Well, you don't have to. I'm not, you're one of those guys that if someone puts you on the spot, you'll just retract anyway. So I don't know how to phrase it so that you will give a positive answer rather than saying it doesn't work like that.
I don't know the question, first of all. I'm not going to spoon
Why
feed how the
don't the
moon
moon
phases work, though.
phases
I will
change
tell
over the
him that
course
he
of the
needs to
day
go and
if
look
it is
at
a
how the
shadow
moon phases are
cast by the
proposed on
sun
the
on the
heliocentric
moon?
model.
Why doesn't
So
it change as
envious,
the
and
moon
so
goes
and
around
so
the
and
Earth in the
so. I
course of
really
the
want to say
day?
hateful. You won't even give the knowledge that you've worked so hard to get and freely give it to somebody else. What hope is there for
I
smart
just
people who are
told you
this
the
envious
knowledge.
and this mean and this spiteful and this miserly with their own freaking knowledge? You know what? Keep it. I'm gonna find it for myself. Mute.
Good, yeah.
That's
I
what he's
just
told
told
you
you
to
and
do.
set you on the right path to find it yourself, you little social justice warrior. I mean, come
Yeah.
on, dude.
So
Are
what
you a
he's sa-
tranny or what?
Yeah, no,
I mean,
come
come
on.
on.
Cut the ad
Bless
hominems.
you.
Wow.
All right, let's
Wow,
hang out
Tim,
just while I
that's-
and you. So I'll just repeat what he said. He said, you've got it wrong. Go and check out the heliocentric models it. So, that's as good as the answer you'll get out of Tim Osman, unfortunately. Go and look how the heliocentric model models it.
Yeah,
You have
absorb
to
some more
conceptualize these things, and unfortunately, there's no way really,
Hi, Jeffrey.
first of all,
Hello.
for me to tell
Hello.
you or
Good to have you.
to depict it. That's the problem.
No,
You can't really
there is a
depict
way
this
for you
because
to
of the
tell us
distances
by
involved.
actually knowing it and then explaining it, and you're not. You're just telling us, oh, no, you look for it. No, it seems
Arwen,
like
It's the
you
angle
don't
of the
know.
sun and moon and earth combination that
Arwen.
causes the moon phases.
Arwen,
Easy
you're
as that.
demonstrably incorrect. You are demonstrably incorrect. The moon's phase does change slightly over the course of a day.
Yeah, but it should change a lot.
No, it shouldn't. How far is the moon moving in the course of one day?
How
It
far is
moves
the sun
across the
moving in
sky
the course of
180
one
degrees,
day?
right?
For our model, the sun is essentially standing still and everything is moving around it.
Hail
Correct.
Helios.
Yes.
So answer
So
your own
for our
question,
model,
how
we treat
far?
the sun as stationary and everything else is going around the sun.
That's not true.
Now, in our model,
It
we
is
can
true.
treat the sun as stationary and
No,
say
that's
everything
not
else
true.
is going around the sun.
Only if you take the solar system in isolation. This is a big problem for the heliocentric
Which is what we're
system.
doing.
No, we are not doing it. You said the sun is stationary and everything travels around it. That is factually inaccurate in the heliocentric model. It's only accurate if you take it in the solar system in isolation, which you have now told us that we are going to do. Well, screw you, buddy. You've got a problem there. You've got the big attractor, haven't you, that it all travels around, so the sun's not stationary, dickhead. Know your own bullshit better.
Could you stop swearing or else somebody might...
Know your own bullshit better, dickhead. Know your own bullshit. Don't come on my show and tell me the sun's stationary in your bullshit model. No, it isn't. Do you want to take that back and correct your bullshit?
What else in the
Are
solar
you going to
system
take
affects the
that
phases
back
of the moon?
and
What else
correct
in the
your
solar system
total and utter nonsense? You've just asserted that the sun is stationary. Are you a complete buffoon?
Why
He's
aren't you
actually
answering
right,
my
though.
question?
He's actually
What else
right,
in the
though,
solar
Nathan.
system affects the phases of the moon?
Sorry, is Tim Osman going to double down on this guy's bullshit and tell me the sun's stationary?
No.
We
He
can
said you can treat it
the
as
sun
stationary.
Oh, we can treat it as stationary, so you're arbitrarily demanding that we will treat it as stationary in this instance. No,
I
the sun
didn't
ain't
demand
stationary.
anything. I said you can
No,
do it. I didn't
the
demand
sun's
it.
not
Now, what else in the
stationary.
solar system
I'm not
affects
going to
the
take
phases
it as
of the
being
moon?
stationary because it isn't. It factually
What else
isn't
in the solar system affects the
in
phases
your
of the
model.
moon?
So know your nonsense better, my friend.
I know the heliocentric model just fine. The fact that you don't is no excuse.
You've just
Ignorance
told the
is
audience
no
that the
excuse.
sun is
All you
stationary
gotta do
and
is
it
look
isn't.
at the Morgiles videos.
Sorry,
to see
how much better do I need to know your
God, the
model? The
Morgiles.
sun isn't stationary, my
crash,
friend.
With the moon and the Earth with the sun already. Can I screen share with you guys real quick? Hold on, let me show you this video. You see me? Can you see me?
So when we're talking of the three bodies of the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon, what he's trying to say is that you should take the Sun stationary. When you're talking about...
Should we? I don't have to do anything. So when someone says, you should do this, I say, should I now? Well, it isn't, so I don't have to. Sorry. In your
I get
bullshit
what
model,
you're saying about
the
it being
sun
basically,
is
you know,
not
we're moving around the sun
stationary.
and there's little to no change,
Just
but maybe
Yes.
it's an assumption.
Everything in the solar...
Absolutely nailed down. In the heliocentric bullshit spinning ball globe religion, the sun is not stationary. Okay, let's just get that unequivocally nailed down.
Yeah,
From
we
the
actually
perspective of the
know
solar
that.
system, the sun is
It's
stationary.
all about perspective. It's all relative, isn't it, Jeffrey?
Yes, relative.
Yes,
You guys
it's
talk
all
about
relative,
perspective all
of
the
course,
time.
Jeffrey,
You guys
of course.
thrive upon perspective. The only
It's
reason
all
the sun's
relative,
tense
isn't
in
it?
your bullshit model is because
Yeah,
of
you get
perspective.
annoyed. I love
Bullshit,
it.
dickhead, bullshit, dickhead.
Yeah, you get annoyed, Jeffrey. It's very entertaining
I
for
like
my
this
audience.
guy.
I'm just
it's
attacking
great.
you.
You've been schooled, my friend. Your sun's not stationary.
I never said the sun was stationary.
Yeah, we just
Again,
have to take
your
it to be
ignorance
stationary
is
in your bullshit
appalling.
example that you're about to give us, right, moron? Yeah, you toddle off with your tail between your legs. I'll just say it once more, just for Jeffrey's benefit. Your sun is not stationary, even though you all want to bow to it as though it is. You want to put it at the centre, heliocentric, Helios at the centre. Unfortunately, my friend, it moves. Yeah? So, no, I'm not going to take it stationary just because your example needs it to be. Sorry.
Can you guys see my screen right now?
Yeah, I'll put you up.
Thank you.
Your deflection proved nothing, Nathan.
All right, so can
My
you guys see
distraction.
the Morgiles?
right. Sorry, should I have
Don't
let him...
share the Morgile, dude. He's
Should
the
I have
biggest
let him?
freaking
Should I have let him
charlatan out
make
here.
Should I have
But
let him
anyway,
make the
as
sun
you can see, the
stationary,
moon
Tim?
would make that swirly route around the Earth going around the sun. So that means that the moon basically has to speed up and slow down to keep up with the Earth and its revolution around the sun. And this is a godless model without any will, any design, any volition. How does this make any freaking sense?
God.
With it being pulled faster, slower, this doesn't make any sense. And it would have crashed into the Earth and or the sun if given a design or a mechanic that has no control and no voluntary will behind it. How is this even logical in any way, shape, or form? Look at that route. That doesn't make any sense.
These are just,
that just disproves the
assertions
whole
from your
gravity system, but
ideologies,
I'm
dude.
still kind
and
of waiting
whatever.
for to
It's
get an
red pill
answer as to
truth.
why
Take it
the
or leave
moon
it.
phase
Hold on, one at a
doesn't
time.
change over the course of the day, because this model, what you're presenting right here, does kind of show that it would definitely change over the course of the day. So I'm kind of interested to hear an explanation about that.
Me too.
I think
RF, do you know what
your tire's deflating.
do you know what
here.
apogee and perigee is, RF? Do you know what nutation is by any chance?
Nutation. That's a new one on me.
Yeah.
Do you know
Nutation.
what evidence is, Tim?
Hold on. That's a new word. Did you say nutation?
Yeah, check it out.
How do
Look
you
it up
spell
real quick.
How do you spell it?
Nutation, I believe.
Thanks. I will.
That's
Well,
why I
can
like
you
you,
proceed
Nathan.
in explaining
You
why
might
the
not
moon
be here
phase
to
doesn't
prove
change
that
over the
the Earth
course
is a
of the day?
sphere or get the truth of the matter, but at least you research still. Some of these people are just like know-it-alls. Like Arwigen, for example, he just makes stuff up as he goes. This ad hoc
Yeah,
conjecture
can
that he
you
always
explain
does.
why the
And
moon
you know,
phase
I feel
doesn't
sorry
change
for
over
Nathan
the
and
course of the
Riley,
day?
where you guys have to kind of go with it because he's on your side, and it's like, guys,
No,
Tim,
I
you
don't
can
know,
you
always agree
explain
with
why
sorry.
the moon phase doesn't change over the course of the day?
And can I just say, Tim, I'll call you on that. I don't always agree with Arwin. We've had public spats before.
They need Arwen though, don't they?
Yeah, I know,
Fill in
I
the
know.
gaps when it gets messy. Arwen just steps in, fills the gap.
Well, you know,
So,
the
Tim, can
thief
you
comes
answer
to steal,
Arwin's
kill,
question?
divide, and destroy. But we might not agree with everything Arwen says. I believe that the stars are physical objects and they're not holograms, but we are united on flat Earth. But I don't believe that they're holograms. I think the sun is a physical object, that they're along with the stars. There might be weird reflection things going off off of the dome that might be leading to deceptive images, or maybe you're just getting a reflected image off of a physical object, just reflected in the southern hemisphere outside of the range of the star's motion, because outside of the range of the star's motion that would be visible in the northern hemisphere, in the northern inner ring, you would get stars going one way, but outside of that range with perspective and stuff, it would go the opposite. So it can be explainable with different models. It just needs to be tested.
I've just Google searched nutation, Nutation, from Latin nutatio, probably butchered that. Nodding or swaying is a rocking or swaying or nodding motion in the axis of rotation of a largely axially symmetric object, such as a gyroscope, planet, or bullet in flight, or as an intended behaviour of a mechanism. That's what it says in Wikipedia.
Yeah, so
Shout out
you'd
to Dan
expect with
Winston.
all this gravitational
Sounds
crap in the solar
suspicious.
system that basically they would pull on each other and do all this. So nutation kind of explains that as it is nominal, I guess
So,
you could say, but there
so
is
what's
kind
the
of attractive
explanation for
forces
Arwin's
that
question,
make it.
Tim?
Yeah.
What's the explanation for Arwin's question? I believe the question was, why doesn't the phase of the moon change throughout the day?
It does to a slight degree.
Yeah, but
Well,
a slight degree that's like very
me.
minute. It should
That not
change
me.
That's
noticeably
okay.
because it's
not you.
rotating completely.
I mean,
when you say to a slight degree, do you mean negligible?
If we
What
want
he
to get
means,
semantical about it, I'd say negligible, sure.
sorry,
Oh,
we had a
great.
new
So
arrow.
when
Had
we
to
apply
kick the other arrow
negligible for
out. I'm really
refraction,
sorry.
it can
Arrow.
make it look like flat. That's a lot of that's an awful lot of negligible, right?
it shouldn't change in a negligible amount. It should change in a great amount because
Yeah, that's
in
right.
the course of the day, it rotates around the Earth completely, as the Earth also rotates around the Sun. So the shadow should change very visibly over the course of the day. So explain why that doesn't happen.
I mean, he's not asking
Well,
for
you just had an
evidence, Tim.
assertion
He's just
that
asking.
it should change a lot, basically, and then I'm supposed to disprove your
If
negative
they are
evidence.
physical spheres, all moving, the sun moving around the sun and the moon moving around the Earth, then yes, it would definitely have to change very visibly over the course of the day.
So you just reasserted what I just had basically refuted.
Well, we could talk about evidence to support his assertion, but you don't really do the evidence. But perhaps an explanation might be within your capabilities.
We could perhaps use a 3D model, a 3D emulator to take a globe of the sun as a light source and then an Earth and the moon and emulate the whole thing. And
What kind of
see
evidence
what
would you
that's
like
like.
there, Nathan or Riley?
What kind of
Would you
evidence
like me to
will
take my
show us the evidence
P900 and prove
this
that the moon
negligible
changes
amount
slightly
of
during the
phase
day
change?
for
So,
you?
just before you answer that though, so nutation, I've just had a bit more of a look at it, and it seems to be in reference to when the system is out of balance. So, are you saying that the moon is an out of balance? Is that kind of what you're asserting?
Well, I guess to a certain degree, it is. Yeah, very. I mean, it's not like it's completely out of balance. Maybe negligibly out of balance, but I was trying
Oh,
to
there's that
tell
word
him
again.
about apogee and perigee too, because he probably thinks that they're just circular orbits, and really nothing orbits perfectly circular, really.
So is this moon being out of balance just an ad hoc explanation in your extrapolations of what the world is, or what? Where are you getting
Well,
this
to be
moon
honest,
imbalance
Nate,
from?
if you look at the definition, it
Hold on.
describes libration better than it does.
I want to understand this. If nutation is something that is, defined in scientific consensus, I'd like to know about it. But from what I can see, it's about a system that is out of balance. And if Tim's saying the moon's out of balance, I kind of like to know how that is. Hi, Don. How you doing? Can you hear us?
I think I'm gonna ask Chris Monk if he could use his 3D engineering to emulate the system with the sun and the Earth and the moon, and see
Yeah, but
how
I just
how
want to
the
know
moon
how
phases would
spurious
occur.
nutation is.
Yeah, but
This
the problem
word's
with
been
that,
thrown
Alan,
in. I've
is-
had a look at it. I just want to know if it's completely ad hoc by Tim Osman or if it actually has any validity.
Sorry, what were you saying, Anthony?
Got this word
the
nutation
pro-
been thrown in, and it's about an out of balance system. And if Tim's asserting that the moon's out of balance, I'd like to know why he's asserting this. Is it just an ad hoc nonsense that's been thrown into the mix, or does it actually come with some evidence or some proof or something to back it up?
No, I personally can't prove nutation, but I did bring up the word because he basically had a paint drawing with little squiggly lines around it. So I brought up apogee and perigee, which it didn't look like the moon in that little paint drawing had anything any depiction on it. And I brought up nutation because it is kind of an obscure thing that you guys obviously didn't know about. And I've always wondered, we got all these billiard balls going all around, and supposedly they have gravitational forces within each other. And you would expect them to sometimes, like when the moon would be more towards the sun, you would expect it to kind of be pulled towards it a little bit more than it's being pulled towards the Earth on the other side of the sun.
I
So
see.
that's why I brought it up.
I think it is actually very interesting then in that case, because you're right, based on the picture that Arev drew, you would expect an imbalance in that system. So perhaps nutation is something that as flat earthers we should look into more, based on the imbalance that would be inherent in that system. And maybe nutation effects are something that we as flat earthers should be considering further to debunk the heliocentric system and its imbalance.
Well, it can be equally explained by the libration demonstration that Chris Monk did on the animation. You would be looking at exactly the same thing with regards to the new word on the street.
What word? Libration? That's not new.
No, the model that Chris did. Do you remember when he did the model on libration?
Yeah.
That would be a flat Earth explanation for nutation in this context.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
A
Yeah,
rocking,
right.
swaying, or nodding motion in the axis of rotation of largely an axially symmetrical object, such as a moon on a flat Earth model.
Right.
Do you want to show that to anybody? Show how it was done?
If you can bring up the video, I'll play it.
Okay.
On Nathan Oakley 1980. I just don't want to do it while I'm watching to see that my only two guests in the hangout don't get sniped. As Arev was just sniped by himself, ironically. So someone joined as Arev and then sniped Arev.
I'm looking for it.
Yeah, he said I was character assassinating him anyway, so he kind of dipped out.
Well, you triggered him immediately
Jeffrey
by going
Pinion
straight for the
says that the
AdHom.
moon doesn't travel around the Earth every 24 hours, except it does when it causes the tides or something. It's like not being very consistent there. So
Ready when you are, Nathan.
how many times?
You think the moon travels around the Earth
then?
every 24 hours?
Yeah, I do. I think that.
Sorry.
Yeah. What's wrong with thinking that? That's pretty much what it looks like it does.
Then why wouldn't
You
it
ready,
be in
Nick?
the same spot in the sky every night or day for your location?
Nutation, this imbalance.
No, there's a lunar cycle, and it's what 27 something point days.
Sure, but I'm pretty sure it's out of balance. So you'd have this effect called nutation. This guy Tim Osmond told me about it 2 minutes ago. It's really cool.
Yes. Anything that I've ever said, like, geez, all the fallacies I brought up, even cognitive dissonance, that was, you remember, that was one of my first channel names around the flat earth. All of this stuff is for you guys to just use upon the globe earth side, because that's what you do anyway. So I would come on and everybody like Dell just completely soaks up everything I say. They don't take the actual points of the earth being a sphere. They soak up everything that I say and just start using it against me and others. So it's excellent, guys. I love it. I absolutely love it. So nutation, there you go.
You're a bit of a martyr today. What's up?
I just, it's sad. It saddens me sometimes. It entertains me sometimes. It's vexing. It's perplexing. It's all these things wrapped in one. That's why I'm still around, at least on your channel, basically only. But yeah, it's like you guys don't seem to be able to ever grasp this, and you call it a religion, and it's like, really, if you were legitimate researchers about this, the question at this point would be, is it a geocentric sphere Earth or a heliocentric sphere Earth or a acentric sphere Earth, for that matter?
Why is it a sphere though? Where's the sphere bit fit into it from the scientific evidence point of view?
Two celestial poles. Can you pop the libration?
There's two star. I mean, literally, the two celestial poles should be enough for people. The obstruction, the sun setting with the sun not changing in angular size, the solar and lunar eclipses, all of these things can make one logically deduce that the Earth is a sphere, and nothing to this point, and I've heard it all. I've heard it all would make me think that the Earth is flat. Ever. Nothing can take that away from me.
Yeah, I know. Nothing can take your religious assumptions away from you. I know your hardcore believer.
You can say it's a religious.
Thank you for the super chat. Very much obliged.
Share on the Earth. Period. I'm not even talking anything like math or anything crazy. I'm talking literally things that we all can observe, and you call that religion. This is a last-ditch attempt to try to basically undermine what I'm saying.
The moon changes do
we
not
observe
change
all these
the
things,
moon
and you're the one that's
spin.
assuming.
I just want to say super chat. Sorry to turn you off, guys. The moon phases do not change. The moon doesn't spin. That was Dayla High's contribution. As he paid for the contribution, he's going to get it spoken. But yeah, Tim, it is a belief. You confessed that right at the beginning. You're taking inference from things. Now, that's a very fancy way of dressing up what you're saying, but it is still belief. Yeah, Arwin can make it derogatory and call it a religious belief. Fair enough. It's, neither one way or the other. Who cares? But it is still a belief.
Yeah, I don't shy away from it being a belief, because I really do believe, on the other hand, that if this whole system is exactly how they're saying it, the only true way, kind of in my epistemology nowadays, to kind of know that it's a sphere and to see the whole sphere would be to see the whole sphere and go out thousands and thousands of miles and look back and see that the Earth is a sphere with my own eyes.
Yeah, exactly. We had this first conversation you and I ever had. Yeah, I'd have to go to see it for myself. That's basically the standard. You want to see it, validate it, right? And you can't.
Until then, I realized that the Earth is a very, very large place. I've traveled all over it. It's very large, and I don't have the money to go and travel like that up into space, or whatever they call space. So at this point, I have to take a number of logical inferences and deduce them into basically knowledge. It is knowledge. You can call it a belief, but when I go out and look at the sun and I go and test the sun's angular size, I mean, at what point does it become knowledge from belief? That's kind of a philosophical question, I guess.
Well, because they assume the distance to the sun. When you get down to it, we know because the transit
it doesn't matter, though. I'm saying that I'm observing it here on Earth, and it's not changing in angular size. I don't need anybody else to tell me anything about it. It's just the way that it is. If it was flat, if it was round, concave, didn't matter.
But fact, they don't know the distance to it, and they just guess. That's just a fact. don't have to like that fact, but that's a fact. You know, when they tell you about the transits of this and the transits of that, it all boils down to them guessing the distance to the sun. They don't know.
I think
High
they've.
says,
I think
take a
they've.
styrofoam ball and test the phases. I have. Yep, check out Dale High's video. I'm sure he's got one on it.
So yeah, nothing tells me that the Earth is flat. I'll go with my P900 probably this weekend and go to the salt flats and show probably curvature, or go to the Great Salt Lake
No.
and look
It's already
and
been
see
done, mate.
Hold on,
bugs
I wanna hear
being
this.
obstructed.
Don't jump over him, man. That's cool as hell.
Yeah.
I am well jealous, Tim. I wish you a happy travel, or whatever the phrase is.
Thanks,
You know,
man.
Godspeed.
Yeah,
I hope you do. I hope you
and
do
I'll
bring back
post
some
it,
footage.
and like I'm not even gonna say this proves that the flat Earth is BS. Like it's just an observation. People can ad hoc it. People can just watch it. They can enjoy it, or whatever. It doesn't matter to me anymore. People have their own beliefs, and some are more fervent than others. But at the end of the day, I think that, if it brings, just like religion to me, if it brings you joy in life, if it brings you a better life, then so be it. Like, I'm no person to try to tell you otherwise.
Couldn't agree more. If you are entitled to your belief, precisely. So the styrofoam ball will match the shadow of the moon, says Daylight Ohio. He's donating hard because he wants these read out. Check out his videos, Daylight Ohio. He's modelled this stuff with balls and flashlights. But yeah, everyone's entitled to their belief. That's the bottom line here. So yeah, so long as you accept it, it's when people tell me it's fact, it's proven. You don't do that, so you don't annoy me. That's the bottom line here. It's the people who say, no, this is scientifically proven. You're like, well, no, it isn't. You've got a belief, and you can extrapolate, and you can deduce, and that's perfectly acceptable. If we didn't do that, we'd be cavemen if they existed. But that's the point. You've got to do it. You've got to theorize. You've got to philosophize. And if you don't, then we are Stone Age people, and that's no good either. So that's kind of one of the reasons I like doing this show, because there's going to be people out there that do have a good philosophy on things. There's going to be other people who are totally dogmatic, and they get irritating pretty quickly for me.
But Nathan, don't you think if you're disputing the sky, that is like a caveman, like Zeticism?
I don't dispute the sky. When I do accept that there
You
are
do,
two
you
celestial,
do. You
what you call
don't explain
celestial
it.
points of
You
rotation.
just say, oh, it doesn't count.
No, I don't. I've never said that. Other people.
You have this
flat earthers-
tangibility argument, though, all of a sudden.
Yeah, I will have the intangibility argument, absolutely the case, because I can't verify what it is and how it is. I can only measure what it does, and that's it. It's movement.
Yeah, I'm glad that you say that, because when I've said this whole time about there being two observable points to the Earth that would make one think that it's a sphere, everybody will go into, well, what's the composition? You don't know the composition. Well, we can't go touch it. We can't go taste it or feel it. And it's like, no. I just said that there's two observable points. That's all I said, and it is no argument at all. It's actually a fallacy. It's a new fallacy called the intangibility fallacy, made satirically, mind you, by a guy named Validation Boy, because his whole show is complete satire. But there's no reason to have to touch, taste, and smell things for you to observe them.
That is what makes
it doesn't matter if
tangible.
if I have three balls and I'm saying what is the direction of these balls going while I'm juggling them. It doesn't matter if it's made of iron, nickel, or cadmium. It doesn't matter. I'm talking about the observation.
It does matter if it's made of matter or if it's just a hologram.
Yeah, that's the
No.
definition of
Even if it's a
and
hologram,
touch.
this is another fallacy. Or basically, it's a hologram fallacy.
You're saying it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter if it's it doesn't matter if it's a hologram, dude, because the fact still remains that there's two celestial points. There's two celestial points, and it works exactly with the latitude and longitude system here on Earth.
Yeah. Yes,
doesn't matter if they're
angular
holograms.
relations. That's the angular relation
the
of the globe,
ballers
the
seem
heavens
to have this
with the
habit
earth.
of measuring intangible things, like apparitions of lighthouses that aren't really there geographically. They're happy to measure to things that aren't really there, and that's a big problem. If you're saying it's okay to measure intangible objects, then I say, no, it's not. You can measure and observe their movements, and I've never denied the 2 points of rotation. I've seen it with my own eyes. I'd be a fool to deny what I've seen with my own eyes. So I've never, ever once denied it. I've tongue-in-cheek said there's no pole star in the south, because there isn't. But that isn't the same as saying there are not 2 rotation points, because there are. You know, I'd be a fool to deny it. However, to extract out from that we live on a ball, I think is preposterous, because we don't know what they are or how they're positioned in the way they are positioned or what produces them. We don't know anything about them. Literally nothing. And you're saying it's fine.
With simple geometry, the only explanation would be a sphere or some type of a cylinder in that case.
Geometry
I mean, it's just
is
simple
basing
geometry.
it on literalizing the coordinates and all of that. And
Well,
if it's intangible,
cylinder.
if it actually can move with the observer, then you can't use geometry in a literal fashion in that sense.
You just say
That's
if,
the whole
then
problem.
if, then it's so. Like this is just complete conjecture. It's not even a
Geometry
hypothesis,
is
dude.
all about
it moves
literal
with the
Hold on,
observer.
coordinations.
you
That's
used an
what
interesting word.
geometry
Can I
is
just
all
get this in?
about.
You said cylinder. Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Because we have this distinct lack of left to right curvature being measured when you do your mathematics for the ball Earth. Now, I'm not saying you, I'm saying the baller you, not you. But when you do your maths, you don't account for this left and right exponential drop. You just go left and right and measure things on horizontal planes. You get a bit tricky when it comes to doing things on vertical measurements. You know, you've worked your way around it with arc calculations or avoiding them altogether, taking left and right calculations between mountains horizontally to avoid for doing vertical calculations. But my point is there's a distinct lack of curvature when looking left and right, which would mean that when you're doing your maths, you're on a cylinder. That's how you're doing your maths. You're only accounting for curve that's in front of you, what you call obstruction.
So you can't say the left to right. This is what Bro Sanchez would say, left to right curvature. Are you talking about x-axis curvature?
Yeah. As you're looking left, you're going to have the curve goes in all directions away from you, from your feet. Therefore, as you pan left and right in, for example, the composite of the Isle of Man, you would have to see left and right curvature. You don't. There isn't any. But we end up doing all of the calculations on what sort of obstruction there should be. Now, we've taken that one step further and said, no, we should be looking for the cumulative drop, not just curvature that's obstructed at the horizon, i.e. the obstruction formerly known as curvature, now known as real-world refraction. But that isn't what your maths does. Your maths calculates for obstruction only, therefore ignoring the left and right drop that should be there, putting you on a cylinder.
Well, the problem here is, first of all, when you say left to right, I could just turn 90 degrees from the Isle of Man and look left, and I would still be making the same observation. So if I was to be on a boat and there was land all around me, I'm sure that you could do calculate. I guess the x-axis is like you're not actually seeing many miles on the x-axis. That's what's great about looking out in front of you, is that if you're looking at an object, a building or a mountain or whatever, you're able to see it beyond the curvature because it's taller than the actual land or the water that you're looking
That's the problem
from.
we encountered. So we have an example of this. We have a composite of the Isle of Man, and it is far enough and wide enough to see curvature. There should be evident curvature in the image. The distance from left to right of the island is about 33 miles. So you're taking a considerable amount of earth curve in that. You should be able to measure it.
You stitched it up into composite, didn't you?
Yeah,
it's not really.
At that.
You stitched it up, and
so
that's a problem to begin with.
No, it's all right. I'll dumb it down. Hello, Infinite Time. Can you say hello? Dropping. Yeah. Okay.
Do you think the cylinder Earth is likely, Nathan?
Hold on, Dawn. I want to explain what I'm explaining in terms of left to right curvature. This all comes down to what we've modelled and shown. You should see a curve because you have a very, very high angular resolution when at full zoom on a P900. You can zoom right in to the point that you should see curvature. Now, according to the advanced calculation on Metabunk's calculation, it should be there too if you want to incorporate the advanced formula for how much left and right curvature we never see.
It was a stitched composite from a bad video. Like,
The
it's
point
not the
that Tim
best
has made
measuring
as
left to right
Dawn is that
curvature.
you should turn to your left, and then according to him, you just start at 0 again. You're just looking out to see again, and you shouldn't have to see any curve. Well, that's incorrect. From your feet, as you spin around, if you are perfectly level, you should see the Earth dropping away from you, but you don't. You can turn 90 degrees and still have a level transit, but you shouldn't be able to.
That's how a sphere works.
No, it's not how a sphere works. As I say, you are having the Earth drop away from you in all directions.
Yeah, which makes a flat horizon. That's what it does.
Then why do you keep over-talking me when I know you don't understand this already? I know you don't.
I'm not over-talking you.
You are. As you look out on the picture with Morgord Lighthouse in it and spin left to right, you should observe measurable curvature. And as you do a 360 pan, it should be obvious because it's all falling away from you in all directions. But that is never demonstrated, ever. You should see it from the ground, and it should get exponentially more bally as you get up in altitude. Now, the horizon does rise with eye level. We do have an apparent horizon as well, but ultimately speaking, we do not have it turning more and more bally as you get up in height. I've never seen it get curved as you get up on a plane, and as Tim Osmond said earlier, he ain't getting high enough to see it as a ball. None of us are. We all see it presented as a flat plane. So, you know, it should get more and more bally as I take off. For every foot I go up higher, I should see more curve. Never happens.
It does get more and more bally the farther you go up.
No, it doesn't. You cannot see any curve from a commercial plane.
That's why it looks flat from the ground.
This is a known fact on both sides.
That's why you see curve from a balloon.
No, you don't.
That's why you see a ball from space.
You don't see curve from a balloon.
You do.
No, I've been in a balloon.
Hello,
and you don't
Flat
see
Earth
curve.
Ball Bag. How you doing? I think I might kick you automatically. Flat Earth Ball Bag.
I can't believe, Nathan, you're saying we should see the curve drop away as we spin round.
Yes, we should. If we live on a ball, if you raise off the ball, you should absolutely and certainly see exponentially more and more ball appear before you until you get to a certain height, and then you see nothing but ball, because the Earth's a ball, according to you. The problem being that never, ever happens. The horizon does rise to eye level. We also have an apparent horizon. And on an altimeter or an attitude meter, or whichever one it is, these things are measured and displayed. So you do have demonstrations of these things. And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a huge, massive thank you to all of the live audience and the people who hit the super chat. Thank you very much indeed. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.